brilliant Barnabas. Hello, I'm Malcolm Cox and welcome to Tuesday Teaching Tips on the character of Barnabas. One of my favourite characters of the New Testament, perhaps the most neglected of all New Testament characters in terms of preaching and teaching. And why is Barnabas important for us as we think about our preaching and teaching here? Is because of what it says in Acts chapter 14 verse 1. At Iconium, Paul and Barnabas went as usual into the Jewish synagogue. There they spoke so effectively that a great number of Jews and Greeks believed. Jews and Greeks. Barnabas effective to people from different cultures and different religious backgrounds. Effective in Jerusalem and Cyprus and Antioch and various other places. An amazing character. And in a lot of these recordings I do, I focus on practical things and techniques for how to be a better speaker, and that's useful. But in this series, we're going to focus on character and spirituality and why that made him so effective as a preacher and teacher. Why does it say that in Acts chapter 14 that he spoke so effectively? Not just Paul, but Barnabas as well. What made him effective, and I think it's what made him so effective, was his character and his spirituality. We're going to look at that now as we take one episode each week to go through from Acts 4 to Acts 15 and a bit beyond. So join me as we explore brilliant Barnabas. The next time we meet Barnabas is in Acts chapter 9. Now, the context is the conversion of Saul, who's now become a Christian in Damascus, and he's had a bit of trouble in Damascus, so he's now down in Jerusalem. And it says that when he came to Jerusalem in chapter 9 verse 26, Saul tried to join the disciples, but they were, understandably, all afraid of him, not believing that he really was a disciple. And again, given his background, we can understand that. But, verse 27, Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. And he told them about what had happened to Saul, how he'd seen the Lord, heard the voice, and started to preach fearlessly. And then Saul is accepted. What an amazing role Barnabas plays here in pulling together two groups of people who would never normally be in the same room together, Saul and the apostles, and helping the church to move forward, helping the kingdom to be advanced by his willingness. So what do we see here about Barnabas? I think several things. Firstly, he takes a risk. He takes a risk because Saul might have actually been pretending to be a disciple and wasn't one. He takes a risk because his own reputation is on the line if this goes badly with the apostles. He accepts a role that he would not have chosen for himself. I don't think Barnabas would have thought this is great. I'm going to get the ex-murderer of Christians who might still be faking it to come and meet the apostles. That's a great role for me. He accepts the role. He sees himself as the man to bring these two together and gets on with it. I think there's several admirable things here about his courage, his faith, his humility, and his ability to be a good negotiator, a good melder together of people to help each other understand and listen to each other. A lot of good qualities. Now, how does this feed into him being an effective preacher and teacher? Well, an effective preacher and a teacher is willing to take a risk. To take a risk on preaching and teaching sometimes controversial topics, which are hard to teach and preach on, but hard to hear. I'm willing to do that because we're not interested in our own reputation. We're interested in the betterment for the kingdom of the kingdom of God. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that we're willing to play whatever role we need to. Just because we like to preach and teach in a certain way on certain topics doesn't mean we should restrict ourselves to that. If there's a role to be fulfilled in preaching and teaching, let us step forward into that, even if it's not our choice. And thirdly, just taking initiative. If we see a need, let's do our best to go and meet it, and not wait for someone else to knock on our door and say, come on, this is a need that needs meeting. We say, well, okay, no, let's take initiative and get on with it ourselves. That's like Barnabas. So these things we see here about Barnabas in Acts chapter 9, which ones inspire you the most? Which ones maybe challenge you the most? I would love to know. I'm amazed by Barnabas, and I love the impact that he had here. What might have happened, or what might not have happened if Barnabas hadn't taken initiative to go and meet Saul and taking his courage in his hands, bringing him to meet the apostles? What an amazing transformation and blessing to the church. So what do you think about today's passage, what we've learned today about Barnabas? I would love to know your thoughts. So please leave a message anywhere you hear or see this recording. Leave it publicly so that we can learn from each other, because we learn best when we learn in community. And if you know someone who would benefit from this recording, please pass it on to them. And if you could do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, the like button in YouTube, or leave a review in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. I'd appreciate that because it increases the visibility of these recordings. And I do hope that you are inspired by Barnabas and that you, by adopting some of his character and spirituality, that it'll help you to be as effective as he was in teaching all kinds of people. Until the next time, have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful week. Take care and God bless.